Variety just published this article. Aquaman 2 flooded with drama. Jason Momoa allegedly drunk on set. Amber Heard scenes cut. Elon Musk's letter to Warner Brothers, and more. We're going to go through this whole article. They're going to cover several topics, including the fact that they had no chemistry. Her and Jason Momoa had no chemistry. So it was kind of cursed from that point. This is one of those vestigial projects that's sort of like left out there to hang now that the DCU as it existed is gone. So let's get into it. These waters are getting choppy. That's a good one. On the same day in mid-September that Warner Brothers dropped the trailer for its $215 million Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, embarrassing documents from the Johnny Depp Amber Heard defamation trial surfaced on Reddit, creating a new headache for the studio behind the film. No duh. Depp fans paid the court fees for the release of documents from Heard's therapist, Dr. Dawn Hughes. Congratulations. Good job, everybody. Good job, everybody, on that. The raw notes scribbled on a legal pad were part of the last year's high-profile trial in which Depp largely prevailed. He 100% prevailed in every way. They describe a hostile Aquaman set where an allegedly intoxicated Jason Momoa, dressed like Depp, pushed to have Heard booted from the role of aquatic superhero Mera. Quote, Jason said he wanted me fired, unquote, the note said. Jason drunk, late on set, dressed like Johnny, has all the rings too. So this is what kills me. This is a dumb one. So really quick, we're going to look this up. So here's Johnny Depp's fashion, right? It is bohemian. It is lots of rings. It's lots of layers. It's old rocker. He has an old rocker aesthetic. Now, Jason Momoa. Also, pretty bohemian. Also, if you've seen him lately, with the fucking hat, it's just old rocker aesthetic. It's just like this motorcycle, old rocker sort of aesthetic that a lot of people have. It's not something that Johnny Depp owns. So that's what that is. So obviously that was all in her head, 100%. A rep from Momoa declined comment, but a DC spokesperson pushed back on Heard's characterization, saying, Jason Momoa conducted himself in a professional manner at all times on the set of Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Others echoed that sentiment. Jason works his ass off, likes to have a beer once in a while like everyone, but doesn't show up drunk to set, says an insider who was on the London set in 2021, adding that the two stars got along and were seen joking together. And he isn't dressing like Johnny Depp. He is always dressed in that bohemian style. Yeah, 100%. He was like, I know how I'm going to get to her. I'm going to break her spirit by dressing like her ex-husband. Surely she's going to get that message and she'll crumble and quit from the project. It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. It's highly paranoid thinking on her part. I think she knew she wasn't doing an amazing job. She didn't have any chemistry with this guy. And she was probably, her job was a little threatened. And so she started thinking of ways to blame it on everybody else or started to feel really paranoid about it. Okay, Heard declined comment, but a source close to the actress confirmed that the notes refer to the Aquaman 2 set and reflect a session from December 27th, 2021. Momoa wasn't the only Aquaman principal to land in the crosshairs. The therapy session also painted a picture of Heard feeling unsupported by the film's director, James Wan, and treated like a pariah because of her high-profile legal battle with her ex-husband. I want to put this in the perspective. It is extremely stressful to do a big-budget movie like this as a director. And there's a lot of directors who are actually really hands-off with the actors. When you imagine a director, you imagine someone standing there, kind of talking someone through the beats, being very like, this is your motivation, giving them a lot of direction. But really on big budget movies, that doesn't happen all that much. It's like you hired a good actor to act well, and you have rehearsals and you have a lot of prep, and you just kind of go based on that. So it's like the hand-holding that maybe she was expecting, it doesn't necessarily happen on big budget movies like that, because the directors are often so concerned with what the next shot is, staying on budget, talking to all the immense level of producers that are from the studio, watching your every move, ready to yell at you if you go $5 over budget, literally. Okay, quote, he raised his voice at me. I can't even post about Aquaman. Made it like it was my fault. I said, I'm sorry. Say Hughes notes in reference to Wan. Nobody could take selfies with me on set given blackout. So I guess this sounds like something that's not James Wan's fault. It sounds like probably Warner Brothers said, look, while you're dealing with this high-profile legal battle, please don't post about the movie because it's going to hurt it. Wan declined comment. The DC spokesperson says James is known for treating members of his cast and crew with the utmost respect and for fostering positive collaborative environment on set. The Aquaman films are no exception. Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things about James Wan on his sets. Like there's plenty of stories about people like Ridley Scott standing, like balancing on top of like a director's chair, screaming bloody murder And that's just the kind of director he is sometimes, because he's he's been in the industry for so long. But even if he did like raise his voice at her, that's really not that big of a deal. Like honestly, that's super tame compared to like most of the stories and things that I've even witnessed on set. Like there's a reason that I sort of gave up on the film industry. I was working on a lot of sets, and I literally stopped because I saw so many people that were pissed off and yelling at each other and miserable and working crazy hours with no families. Like it was miserable. It was a miserable experience to watch. So I just didn't want to deal with it. So it's like it's making movies can be a really thankless, miserable job sometimes. And a lot of people are mean and screaming. And if the worst thing that happened on a big budget, stressful movie like that is someone raised their voice at you, you're fine. Everything's fine. And yet, Heard was nearly fired, sources on both sides tell Variety. Following Aquaman's release in 2018, the studio and Wan decided to drop the actress from the sequel due to her lack of chemistry with Momoa and sent a letter to her attorney, Carl Austin, informing her of its decision. I didn't know this. Whoa. So she was actually fired? I didn't know she was actually fired. That's wild. Former DC Films boss Walter Hamada testified in the defamation trial about the issue of chemistry. Right, that's when we heard about that. Those sources underscored that the move to bounce Heard was unrelated to Depp and took place before he filed suit against the actress. God damn it. Likewise, Momoa was not involved in the decision-making, but another source pushed back on the lack of chemistry narrative, noting that Heard did a chemistry test with Momoa before landing the role of Mera and beat out 2 other actors who did a similar chemistry test. Yeah, but that's the one thing. Doing a chemistry test before the movie and then actually doing the movie and then it doesn't turn out, how you wanted or how it looked in those tests, that's different. They're talking about the sequel. Ultimately, the studio never pulled the trigger on firing Heard because her former boyfriend, Elon Musk, had one of the litigators send a scorched earth letter to Warner Brothers threatening to burn the house down if the actress wasn't brought back for a sequel, says a source familiar with the behind-the-scenes battle. Warner Brothers caved and moved forward with Heard. Musk did not respond to a request for comment. Oh my God. So they actually fired her. They sent a note to her lawyer saying, hey, you're done. You're not going in the second one. And then she went to her billionaire boyfriend and said, fix this. I want to be in this movie. Fix this. What's the point of having a billionaire boyfriend if you can't fix this shit for me? I can't believe he actually did this. This is so sad. He's such a simp. He's such a simp. Drama's being rehashed at a time when DC Entertainment toppers James Gunn and Peter Safran are poised to close the book on the previous regime's superhero slate with December 20th release of Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Since Warner Brothers chiefs Pam Abdi and Mike DeLuca joined the studio in June 2022, following the Gunn and Safran's entrance 4 months later, the four have been saddled with DC duds they inherited, including this year's The Flash and Blue Beetle. Yeah, they've been trying to get these things sort of out there to be done with them. Still, the Aquaman sequel held promise, considering that the character's first outing earned $1.15 billion worldwide, becoming the highest-grossing DC movie ever. But sources say the sequel has endured challenges outside of the Heard saga and testing in the 60s before being recut in the summer of 2022. Despite the overhaul, the films continued to test in the 60s, prompting a new cut. The movie is like this echo of regimes. It's the last remnant of the Snyderverse, and no one really wants to take ownership of it. Yeah, no shit, of course. Because if it does well, then they're going to point at and say, see, this is Zack Snyder's doing. And if it doesn't do well, then it's still your fault for putting it out. They're going to release Aquaman 2 but it'll just be with very, very minimal marketing. That's all it's going to be. They want it to happen. They want to put it out to make some of their money back. Okay, like Flash, Aquaman can't shake its lame duck trappings, with the DC Universe getting overhauled under new leadership, marking Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav's top priority. By the way, I don't know if they're going to get to it. Oh, I think they are going to get to this, yeah. But basically, it came out today that officially none of the OG cast is returning. There's a chance that some of them will come back in other roles, and I think that's likely because of existing contracts that they would have to pay out. So it's like they have an X picture deal. Like let's say Jason Momoa has a 3-picture deal and they're not going to do an Aquaman 3. So they can use him for something else. Like for instance, I think that's probably the main reason why Ben Affleck was in The Flash. That was a way to get him to satisfy his contract without having to put out another Batman movie with him. Okay, in fact, none of the stars cast by Zack Snyder for 2016's Batman, Superman, Dawn of Justice and 2017's Justice League included Ben Affleck, Henry Cavill, Gal Gadot, Ezra Miller and Jason Momoa will reprise their roles in the DC universe and character. Yeah, that's what Got Good I just said. Yeah, they're not coming back. Sources say the actor has engaged in talks to play Lobo either in the 2025 reboot Superman Legacy, written and directed by Gunn, or in a standalone film. Exactly. He likely had a 3-picture deal to do Aquaman 1, 2, and 3. They're not going to do Aquaman 3. James Gunn likes Momoa. It'd be too weird to have Henry Cavill be Superman again. They don't want that. They want someone else. They want to start fresh. And they can't have him play somebody else. That would be too weird. So they can't do that. Gal Gadot, Ezra Miller's a hot potato right now, for lack of a better word. Gal Gadot's been like a little controversial. He's not that hot. He's talking about Jason Momoa. Yeah, but he doesn't have any real strikes against him. And remember, the first Aquaman did very, very well. The second one's not going to do well, but it's because of a lot of other reasons, I think. They did 3 Wonder Womans, right? I can't even remember. No, they didn't. They didn't do it. The third got scrapped. Yeah, you're right. So the third Wonder Woman got scrapped. So I don't know what her contract looks like. That might be one of the things where they just pay her out because the second Wonder Woman bombed so bad. Okay, in a confusing twist, Viola Davis, who played Amanda Waller in both of the recent Suicide Squad movies, will remain as the character in the Gunn Safran DC universe in next year's Max series Waller, and probably in the new Superman tentpole. Another outlier is Gunn's Max series Peacemaker, which will be back for its second season with John Cena in the lead. Those are also both a little weird, but I think because they're smaller characters, maybe it's okay. It's still a little weird though. Meanwhile, there's been some confusion on the series front about who is the ultimate gatekeeper. Unlike Marvel-Disney relationship, in which Marvel controls the creative process and Disney Plus merely releases the content, Max is creatively involved with the DC slate. Gunn and Safran don't enjoy the same autonomy as Marvel's Kevin Feige, which sucks. A Max source says the collaboration between the DC teams and Max executives Sarah Aubrey and Casey Bloys has been seamless, including on the upcoming series The Penguin, which has been forced to shut down production after the WG strike, but it is expected to resume shooting as soon as the SAG-AFTRA strike ends. I'm excited for that one. I mean, it makes sense. It's like Gunn and Safran would not have gotten that job if they didn't play well with the people at Max. Regardless, some of the lot are convinced that another company, most likely Universal, will buy Warner Brothers within 2 years, making recent DC subplots and upheavals feel quaint. That is wild. Universal, their big franchise is Fast and Furious and the Jurassic World series. The Jurassic World's done. Fast and Furious is coming to an end. It makes sense that they would want to shell out a bunch of money to get some kind of fresh start. Because what are they going to do? Try to reboot the Universal Monsters shared universe? No. Okay, the bottom line is they need to get DC to work, whether Zaslav owns it, whether Brian Roberts owns it, whether somebody else owns it. In a run-up to Aquaman sequel, Warner Brothers will outwardly back the film and hope for a Chinese release like its Barbie, The Flash, and Shazam! Fury of the Gods received. After all, the first Aquaman earned nearly $300 million in China alone, but those types of China numbers are a thing of the past. Neither Barbie nor The Flash landed anything close to Aquaman's Middle Kingdom haul from 2018, earning $35 million and $25.9 million there, respectively. Oi. For now, neither Momoa nor Heard will be promoting the film, given the ongoing SAG-AFTRA strike, like I said. If there's a red carpet for it, you're going to see James Wan, you're going to see the writers, you're going to see the executive producers, that's it. But if the strike ends soon, now that WGA has come to terms, the stars will be junketing, making it difficult for Warner Brothers and Wan to avoid Heard's accusations that her role was significantly cut. This is the really interesting thing. I have no idea if she's actually going to promote the movie. If the SAG-AFTRA strike gets resolved tomorrow, would she promote the movie? Because technically speaking, she would have been paid to do that already as part of her contract. At least 2 Heard scenes were cut from Aquaman 2, an action sequence that found Mera fighting Black Manta, and a love scene with Momoa, according to individuals familiar with the production, which is not a surprise. That stuff happens all the time. When you do a low-budget movie, you're pretty much, what's on the page of the script is what you shoot, but when you're doing a big-budget movie like this, it gets so tested to death that you shoot far more than you'll ever use. It's why you always hear about there being, the original cut of a movie being 5 hours, 6 hours. You film so much more than you're going to use because you need that flexibility based on testing after the fact. Even Titanic had alternate ending they shot. You do stuff like that all the time. So it's not all that weird for scenes to get cut. And it's something that someone like Amber Heard could cherry pick and say, look, they're screwing me over by cutting my scenes. But as they've talked about, they almost fired her. Because they didn't like the chemistry that she was having with Jason Momoa. So it makes sense that they would cut it down to bare minimum. They couldn't fire her, but they still shot with her because they had to. And yeah. Turmoil aside, the sequel might just work at the box office. The first Aquaman was a ho-hum in early testing and found its footing in post-production. A studio source says Aquaman 2 is following a similar trajectory. Early tracking shows strong interest and puts the film's opening on par with the first Aquaman. That's pretty good. Okay, everybody's down on DC, but there's a chance, especially with the limited competition during the holiday season, that Aquaman could still play like gangbusters because of lack of product, says Jeff Bach, a box office analyst with exhibitor relations. Sometimes the right film at the right time is all you need. Of my take on all of this individually, like, so James Wan was mean to her. He raised his voice to her. So James Wan should not have been involved in this. Doesn't matter. Jason Momoa dressed like Johnny. No, he just dresses like that. They both dressed like rock stars from the 70s. Elon Musk saved her from being fired. Yes, that is apparently true. We now know that Warner Brothers sent a note to her lawyer saying that they're firing her. And then she went to Elon Musk, billionaire boyfriend, and said, I don't want to be fired from this. Save my job. And then his lawyer sent a scorched earth letter to Warner Brothers. And so then she was treated like a pariah on set, with things like James Wan raising his voice to her and Jason Momoa dressing like Johnny, because they didn't have any chemistry. They did want her fired. If she felt awkward after being fired from the production, I would imagine, yeah, she feels super weird. She would feel super weird in that situation because she got fired and then she used a billionaire's leverage to get her job back. So yeah, she probably felt a little awkward there, as she should have. Jason Momoa was drunk on set. There's no evidence of that. People have refuted this. There's no evidence of that. Would she maybe be suspicious of him being drunk because she's looking for something like that, because she thinks that everyone on the set is against her, which they possibly are because they wanted her fired, and she bitched her way into keeping the job? I don't know. And then her scenes were cut. That's true. Some of her scenes were cut. That's basically where we are.